Hi guys, Doger here with a new video, and this video is finally a Soloq Rbg tier list video for the War Within. I did wait until the Soloq Rbg is officially out with real rating, with a real ladder, and we have been playing a lot of Soloq Rbgs on multiple characters, and I have a pretty good sense of the meta. I think I'm going to be honest, a lot of balancing changes are not going to affect the tier list too much because a lot of things are just like innate, like does the spec or class have that utility or not. Again, balancing, it could be also like destroying someone's damage, then obviously it's going to be affected for RBGs. But let's say a rogue always has some sort of utility and can always play around like objectives very well compared to, like, let's say an enhancement shaman. Now, let's talk about the tier list. Again, I'm going to explain. Tanks, I'm going to rate them on the same level as tanks. So it means that for me, a Guardian Druid is not going to be versus a Rogue on the tier list because it's not meant to be. You only face a tank if you're yourself having a tank in your team, and that's the best way and the fairest way to rate them. I'm going to try to be very fast on the tier list, but again, I always say that, and every time it's a 1 hour video. Now I'm going to try to quick fire it and explain my thought process and why I think certain specs are S, A, B, C, D, or F tier. S tier means that it is like the best specs. You really want them in your group, and you really want them not against you. They are very good on every single map pretty much, and you are doing either super like utility stuff, or you're like the best flag carrier, or you are the best capper, for example, so you're capping nodes without a problem, or like defending your caps. You are one of the best healers in the game without any problems, like your healing throughput and your mobility is good. For example, A tier means that it is meta, it is a good spec, a very good spec. You want them in your team, but like it's not like a necessity for like S tiers have. B tier means that it is average to good, like you could have them in your team, it would not be really bad, but you know that it could be a coin flip depending on maps. A C tier means that it is underpowered, you wish to not have them in your team pretty much, you wish to face them versus you. D tier means that it is very, very bad, you actually just despise them in your team, like there is no synergy at all with a lot of maps, and you really don't want to like have them in your team. F tier means that it is like plain unplayable. I don't think there is like one F tier, we'll have to see, but right now it is for me F tier. Now I'm going to talk class per class so you can follow it pretty easily. But let's start with Warrior. I think it's one of the hardest to rate in my opinion. I play Arms Warrior. I don't really play Fury. I decided to not do that because I feel like they're going to get nerfed anyways, and I just prefer Arms, and my build doesn't go well with Fury, which is a crit build. I made a video about it, a guide about it, and I'm very, very happy about that build. But in Soloq RBGs, your agency is very low as a warrior in general, like Fury and Arms. Arms has the utility of War Banner. It can help you to secure wins, and you can also defend cap like nodes pretty well if you know that the rogue is coming and you're doing a good wall banner. That could really ruin his whole plan of actually getting the cap, for example. But you have little agency, like you're not going to solo carry games most likely. Your damage is not like through the roof either. You also are not very much tanky. You can be tanky depending on who you're facing, but Die by the Sword is still something you cannot pop while you're stunned. And obviously, if there is a caster, it's not going to be having a lot of utility on the parry part of it. And even Sub Rogue can just cheap shot, or Assassination Rogue can cheap shot you and burst you down because cheap shot goes through Die by the Sword. I'm going to say, and I think I'm an optimist by saying that. I think it's B tier at best. I think a lot of people would put them in C tier for the utility part and for the thing that is like agency, because agency is really, really big on this tier list. Like, this tier list should actually tell you which one is it going to be easier to win games on, like purely because of you, not because of your teammates. Arms Warrior kind of relies on that. Like if your healers really suck, or like you have never like a healer with you, you're going to feel pretty bad. You have some sustain with Ignore Pain, with your Impending Victory, second wind, you have great damage, but it still is like not really something like it's popping off most of the time. So I'm going to say B tier, and I'm very optimistic because I play arms and I do pretty well on Soloq RPGs. But it's not like I'm feel like I'm the carry of those games. Like I am just like someone that is participating, which sometimes is enough. But I know that like on some maps I'm going to despise my time, especially like those long maps where mobility is like a thing, and you're keeping on getting in combat and you cannot mount. Well, you're going to have a struggle to actually like reach the other end of the map, for example. Fury Warrior, I would say I could put them in A tier, but to be fair, it's for me the same, right? People are going to say, but Fury is better than Arms. Guys, and damage, you're 100% right. I think utility-wise, you don't have wall balance, so you don't have that. But I think mobility, how maps are played, it doesn't matter if you're Fury or Arms. Most likely, the matchups and how it plays is the same, right? And you're still a warrior spec. You still have the same mobility. You're not like vastly different like compared to an elemental shaman and enhancement shaman, for example. It is literally a playstyle change, but it is not like a vast change. It is still the same. You're killing pretty much the same way, although one is a bit more burstier than the other, and the other one has more sustain. Yes, Fury has more sustain, but the Arms Warrior has like, let's say, a little type of sword that can stop any melee. Like you're facing a Feral Druid, you're facing, let's say, a Outlaw Rogue, Survival Hunter, BM Hunter, even MM Hunter. It is a straight stop, while Fury Warrior doesn't really have that. You don't have War Banner. So it's like, for me, the same like tier, because it is like the same. You're not going to like carry the game because you are a Fury Warrior instead of an Arms Warrior. You're not going to say, but god damn, I'm playing Arms Warrior, I wish I was Fury. Those games are not going to exist in Soloq RPGs. In Solo Shuffle it might exist, but in Soloq RPGs it is not. Protection Warrior. Now, on the grand scale of things, if you're talking about purely tank capacities, Protection Warrior is actually just not a great tank for like most maps. I would say that in like defending nodes are okay for Protection Warriors, but in general you might just get a blind or a sap, and yes, you can like berserker rage your sap, so that's actually a good thing. So you can defend, but then again, there is a CD, so at one point you cannot like every single time berserker rage. Just a blind is enough. You don't have like great CC either. Like you only have like a long fear, a stormbolt, and thundershock. You have ways to play around and try to win games because of that. You're also not really the greatest flag carrier because you don't really have a lot of mobility compared to a Mistweaver, compared to a Guardian Druid, compared to even a Vengeance Demon Hunter. You are really not there, and you're also not a Blood Decay where you can literally hostage someone from like Narnia. Literally, a Blood Decay can just hostage the flag carrier and like keep the flag carrier with him while someone else is taking the flag. So for me, Protection War, it's not like it's unplayable, but I'm like the regard towards Protection Warrior is for me that it is literally a DPS for me. Like Protection Warriors in general, with which ones I played with in Soloq RPGs, they didn't feel like they were like doing anything but except doing damage. And to that extent, I do feel like they do some okay damage for a tank. And there is maybe a video there out there if I manage to test it out. But I do feel like right now I haven't seen a Protection Warrior making me jump out of my chair. And that is like one thing I'm looking forward to that tier list. Like I played like with 2 Protection Warriors. It could be a skill issue, but I haven't really seen a Protection Warrior being like, I am really carrying the game, or I am actually like having a weight on the game. We did win a game with a Protection Warrior, but I was like flag carrying as Enhancement Shaman, so he didn't do anything except like stay in fights. So yeah, for me, if I have to rate it as a tank, it's D tier. Maybe as a DPS, maybe C tier. But it's a tank. Like this is a tank, so I'm going to try to rate him as a tank. Because obviously the other tank could be a Guardian Druid or Mistweaver, so you could be boned because of that. Now, rogues. We have Assassination Rogue, Subtlety Rogue, Outlaw Rogue. I'm going to be honest. For me, both these 3 specs are S tiers based on how they are in the game, because they have a stealth, which have no CD again. A lot of games have like stealth like spells that are on the CD. For example, Warhammer Online has a CD on its Inquisitor, for example, like Witch Hunter. So it still has that capacity to actually overturn a game just based on how they play. If you have a rogue and the enemy team has no rogue and it's a Gilneas map, for example, or if it's Arati Basin, Deep Wind Gorge, whatever like node map it is, it's it kind of is an auto win if he knows what he's doing. So I'm going to say Assassination Rogue is S tier, Subtlety Rogue is S tier, and if I have to rate them like in between, Outlaw Rogue is obviously a bit less interesting than those two specs because he has like less damage potential, while Sub Rogue and Assassination Rogue can actually like destroy someone. That is true. But they all have now double vanish, which is something that they didn't have, now they have. They still have like plenty of CC and they can still win the game just based on CC. You don't actually need to kill anyone to win the game. Like even Outlaw Rogue can actually flag carry because he has like 2 harpoons, like 2 grappling, so grapple hook. So they could actually like get the flag, grapple hook, and then like shadow step onto an enemy, and then you're gone. Or you can shadow step on your ally, and you're also gone. So you have a lot of great things with Outlaw Rogue, but I would say like in general, yes, your killing power is not the same as an Assassination Rogue or a Sub Rogue. So that's why I'm giving you a bit of like space. But in general, like I think anyone that has played Soloq RBGs, if you have a rogue in your team or a rogue against you and you don't have a rogue or they don't have a rogue, the game is vastly different. Like it is really a meta defining, I would say even a game defining, a bracket defining spec or class to play or play against. There is nothing, I could even put an S+, but I don't want to make this tier list too silly. Everyone knows it is God tier. Everyone knows they want one, at least one in their group. 2 max. If they're more, then obviously it is working like worse for you. But like 1 or 2, it is perfect to have in a lot of maps. There's like a few maps, like for example Kotmugu, where I would maybe not prefer having a rogue, but even an assassination rogue can do like wonders. For example, a sub rogue can just one-shot someone to get the orb. So that is still a possibility. Now, Hunters, there is no secret. I think Hunter is literally S tier. It is also, I think, one, if not, like, is it currently like this? Let me see. Solo, Blitz, the best, there is like one, which is Mario Banks. He's playing like at 2700. Wow, it's really inflated, by the way. But like Hunters are very popular. Now, obviously, like you see, like there is no secret. A lot of people are S tier, like those specs are S tier, so there is like a big spoiler. But I think in my mind, Hunter is really strong because it just deletes people. It has survivability as well. You can go Sentinel, you can go Dark Ranger. I think it is one of the most busted specs in BGs in general, but also in Soloq RBGs. The CC is not as important, but I would say that one Hunter in your group is actually like a blessing. Obviously, you don't want to have 3 or 4, but I have played a Soloq RBGs with 5 Hunters in my team on a Twin Peaks. We had 3 MMs, 1 BM, which is me, and Survival Hunter, and we actually won the game by a landslide. Like, any FC that was passing was just straight up deleted because there was no tank. That was like Twin Peaks without a tank. So, Hunters for me, like, not the same level as Sub Rogue. Like I said, I think Rogues in general is S+, but I don't want to make it silly. Hunters are like just a league just beneath for Rogues because it's still like you can play without an and it would also be good. But like having an and if it's a competent one, he can actually just like win you fights that you should not be able to win most likely because your damage is really, really high. Let's talk about BM really quickly. BM Hunter is the one that I play currently, like Hunter specs. I think it's not as bad as I thought it would be, but I think it's like literally very annoying. As you are a BM Hunter, for example, a lot of maps have elevations, which just sucks. For example, Guineas, not Guineas, but the Silver Shard Mine sucks if you are going on the ramp and you're going up. If your pet is beneath, then like if your pet is following you, good luck, because if you're going down, it's not going to go down with you. It's going to do the whole tour just to go through your enemy. So everything with elevation kind of sucks. For example, Kotmugu kind of sucks because you have to either decide to fight inside of the ring and you stay in the ring, or you're fighting outside of the ring and you're staying outside of the ring, because your pet is stupid. He cannot jump. so he has to go the whole way down to go to the target, and most likely it's getting rooted, snared, even sometimes killed on the way, and it kind of sucks. So I think just based on that, I want to put them also B tier. It is average. I won't. You know what? I'm going to put them at C tier because again, I don't want to be too biased. For me, it is B tier, but I think a lot of people are going to hate BM Hunter in like pure Soloq RPGs because they're going to tell you why didn't you play MM kind of feel. Nobody really said that to me because I always like performed well in damage, and I actually play for the flags, I play for the nose, so I try to be proactive. But I know that some games I play BM Hunter, I'm telling myself like if I was MM, this game would be over. And a BM Hunter kind of like lets you down on a lot of maps. And I would say like your kill potential is very like you can kill enemies, but it's very slow. So on maps where you have to kill very fast and you try to win like a node, or you are in Silver Shard Mine and you're trying to like overtake the card, if you're not fast enough, you're just there for nothing. So that's why it's C tier for me. Survival Hunter, surprisingly, it's not bad. I still think like it's still a pet class, and you still need to do some kill commands here and there. It has good damage. I feel like it would be disingenuous for me for putting in B tier because it still is like a hunter class is actually not bad in RPGs, Soloq RPGs especially. But I think like I'm going to say that it's good. I think like if I have to separate those two, like Fury Warrior, Survival Hunter, I would say like it is B plus, while Fury Warriors and Arms Warrior would be B minus. I would say Survival Hunter has like a lot of good damage, has mobility, has a freedom, has again disengage, which is very good. So if you're falling, you can disengage. So you have a lot of things that are playing into your hands. You're not the greatest either, but I would say like you are more useful than a BM Hunter. So there is like a bit of a separation that is needed between those two. You could take an argument for Survival Hunter being A tier, but again, I'm listening to you guys, but I feel like Survival Hunter is very hard for me to put it in A tier because I don't had games where I feel like the Survival Hunter really straight up carried the game, and A tiers are like really into the carry potential kind of tier. You know what? Let's start up with Evokers. I swiped it there, but Evokers are S tier. I think it's like the best healer in the game, if not the best in all content. Maybe not in twos, but Soloq RPGs, like the throughput is insane, the mobility is insane. You can actually save like the flag carrier very well with rescue, which is insane as well. You have damage as well. You are more than just a healer, you are like an enabler. I think it's also very hard to kill one because again, Soloq RPGs is not like Soul Shuffle where you have dampening. Your healing is really high and your DPS is also very high, and I don't see it very much change. It was already in Dragonflight very strong even whenever it was weak, like in RPGs. But in Soloq RPGs right now, in The War Within, where Preservation Worker is really the meta currently, I don't see it like lower than S tier. Like there will not be a point where I will tell myself Preservation Evoker is really lower than that. It might be A tier, maybe if the throughput is like uber nerfed, but even then you have the mobility, you have the utility, you have the damage, you have like the complete package for it to be good. So Devastation Evoker, S tier. Again, I think people are like downplaying Devastation Evoker for some reason, but the damage is like insane. Like it does literally 1 million DPS. Like it's crazy. If it's like enabled and you have all CDs up, you can just literally cleave and mow down people like Mythic Plus. It's actually crazy. Mobility is crazy. You also have rescue, so you're also super insane on flag maps. It is quite underplayed because it's still Evoker, but the people that look at the ladder, you see a lot of representation for such a not that popular spec because of drag tier, the race. So right now for me it is a clear S tier, and it's really hard for me to put it any lower. Like it's above MM. I'm not going to like healers is going to be on the side, but if I'm not going to make them compete with DPS. Preservation Evoker is just bar none S plus, like the best healer out there. Devastation Evoker is really close to the best, and it's very annoying to deal with. Like I cannot really stress how difficult it is to face a devastation evoker in most lobbies, especially if they're good and they know how to play objectives. It's actually crazy, especially if they're like paired with a healer. It becomes like literally a nightmare. Augmentation evoker, I didn't see too many. It is not bad. I'm going to put them at the A tier still. I think the damage, it has some damage. It will be better with forset as well, from what my understanding. It is just underplayed, that's for sure. But if I see an augmentation evoker in my team, I'm actually very happy. I'm not like, whoa, I wish. Like, I'm still going to say I wish it was devastation evoker, but augmentation evoker just bonifies the whole team. And if you're like having a great map where like team fighting is like king, for example, Eye of the Storm, for example, I don't know, RT Basin like at BS, for example, or LM, where you have like bigger fights, or farm, or sometimes in stables. You have also like Warsong Gulch and Twin Peaks, where literally team fights are like part of the game. Literally, you're team fighting on the AFC or with your team. You're a very good support, like that is like no secret, and it actually is surprisingly like useful. Like, again, I think people are like underestimating augmentation evoker for the pleasure of a lot of augmentation evoker fans. So I'm going to put them at A tier because I do feel confident that they are strong in Soloq Rbgs. Now let's talk about another tank, which is Vengeance Demon Hunter. I'm going to put them at A tier. I'm not as excited to see a Vengeance Demon Hunter than, let's say, a Garden Druid. That's like no secret. They have more mobility. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's more mobility without sacrificing your defensives, because you can be mobile as a Garden Druid, but you will have to sacrifice defenses. But I feel like they're more killable these days. Now, it's true, I didn't see too many Vengeance Demon Hunter. I wish I could like see, for example, what is the highest score. You have Illidan Godix, 2253, and then if you're going for the Garden Druid, I want to see the difference. It's just kind of the same, really. I mean, it is actually like contradicting me. It's actually contradicting me, but I mean, in America, it's weird how like the rating is like super high compared to EU. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm playing on EU, right? So for me, I'm seeing a lot more Garden Druids than any Demon Hunters. So this is like the reality for me. So these guys are more the reality for me than any of the DHs. You know what? I'm going to put them at S tier because, again, I'm open to be wrong. But in EU, you see way less Vengeance Demon Hunters, and I see way more Garden Druids, and the few ones I've seen from, like, again, experience, were losing. So, again, you know what? For mobility, I could see Vengeance Demon Hunter, like, maybe also S tier. And then you have Havoc Demon Hunter, which it's very hard to put, man. So that is like one of the things that I see currently, is that a lot of like Havoc Demon Hunter actually swapped and actually like jumped ship to the brown class, which is a Fury Warrior. I would say that right now, I'm going to value them a bit higher than, man, it's very hard. Because if I put A, I feel like Survival Terror is also A. But I'm going to put them at A for now. They have great CC. That is going to help. They have Darkness, which is like AoE help for anyone to stand in. You have Blur on a very low CT, although sometimes I concede rogues are just destroying you. But I feel like your mobility, your availability in fights, because again, mobility means that you're more in fights than, let's say, a warrior is. You can flag carry as well, although again, I think it's not the best because you do die in stuns very rapidly. You really don't want to flag carry every single time, but you could actually like displace the flag in your base and then drop the flag for someone else. That is also an option, but I feel like they're strong. For what I've seen, from what I've played, I do feel like Demon Hunters are a bit better than Warriors because they have like more utility in CC. But I'm going to say that it might be also B tier. So I'm going to put them at the top of B tier, like with Survival Hunter. So you have like, let's say those two are like below. The issue is that I still think that they got nerfed on a lot of stuff, right? And I do feel like the self-sustain is just not as big as it was before. whenever it was actually very much self-sustaining, it was very strong in Soloq Rbgs. That's one of the examples where a nerf or like a general nerf from Dragonflight to The War Within, it actually feels like the spec is doing worse in RBG scenarios. Now, again, like I'm not really committed to that. For me, it might be A tier, but I do feel like, and I do understand, like having Demonology has kind of the same problems as a Fury Warrior, except they are more mobile, but they're also less tanky. So I'm going to put them at B tier right now. Garden Druid for me is S tier with Vengeance Demonology. EU and like in EU, Vengeance Demonology and Garden Druid are like really tied together, but I do see a lot more Garden Druids in general. So for the amount of players that you see, you will face a lot more Garden Druids, which I feel like if you have one in your team, it's way better than, let's say, a Protection Warrior or let's say Protection Paladin. So right now, I think like those two are like the S tiers by a long mile, and then you have the rest. Again, I think that this like is something I'm not going to die on my heel. Like if you have like an argument where you feel like Vengeance Demonology is like better than Garden Druid, I might like just fold, right? But from my experience and from what I've seen, I'm not like really impressed with Vengeance Demonology. Feral Druids, I really love them in Soloq Rbgs. I'm going to put them at A tier. They're very good as offensive play. You can have very good maps. You are somewhat tanky and you can actually like carry flags. You are not the best flag carrier because you have other specs that are way better just in general, but you are like a proficient one. So if you really want to flag carry, you can. I still think Resto Druid is for me a better flag carrier than Feral Druids because they can halt themselves and they can just shapeshift without any problems. While Feral Druids, if you really want to have like mobility, you do sacrifice a lot of stuff. Now, I'm going to say that again, I don't want to die on this hill. For me, it could be S tier or it could be S tier. For me, it's more closer S tier than B tier, that's for sure. But from what I've seen, Feral Druids, they are like acting like semi-rogues, right? You could literally just stun into Cyclone, into Cap, or you can stun and then try to cap as well afterwards, or you can like again you can play around and you can push people off edges, for example. You have some agency. You really can carry games as Feral Druid, that's what I'm saying. It is not on the level of a rogue, but it's definitely like one of the specs where if I don't have a rogue, I hope I have a Feral Druid. That is for sure, like a Night Elf Feral Druid, because they have like a restyle, which is very useful. Resto Druid, I think in Soloq Rbgs is not impressive at all. I'm going to put them at B tier. It's not lower than arms, by the way. Huh? It just is like how I scale the tier list. You have DPS, you have then your healer, and then you have then your tanks. Resto Druid is not bad. It is actually a good flag carrier, but often than not, your healing is just not that great. Like your AoE throughput is. It is existent, but not existent to the extent of a Preservation Evoker or let's say a Mistweaver. You have not as much utility and CDs that can actually like literally turn the tides. You could do well, and your damage is non-existent as well. Because you don't have time to do damage in general. You could like do 1v1s or 1v2s on nodes, but again, yeah, you're wasting your healing power by doing those things. So for me, it's going to be B tier. I would say good to average, probably a bit better than average, but it's not fantastic. Now, Balanced Druid is a spec that has fallen from far. That's also a spec that did kind of get a lot of nerfs from Dragonflight to The War Within, and I do feel like I'm not as sold on Balanced Druid these days. They have the greatest CC though, which is Cyclone, so that is a fact. But I would say if you have to choose between Devastation Evoker and Boomy, I would prefer a Boomy in my team compared to a Balanced Druid right now. Now they could get buffed, and maybe in the mid-season they will get even more buffed. But they do like the snappy like spells that you had in Dragonflight, and I would say like it takes a bit more coordination than like in RBGs. For example, in RBGs you have like voice, right? So you could do coordination and you could play around your strength. But I think in Soloq Rbgs where coordination is a bit less, it does feel like Balanced Druid is not the powerhouse what it should have been, I would say, in Soloq Rbgs. So I'm going to put them at A tier. Again, people might do some outcry. Please state your arguments for me to put it higher, but for me right now it is just not performing as much as in Dragonflight. And maybe some people might think it is, but again, you have to compare Dragonflight RPGs with like the World Within, and you will see like two worlds different, like how they deal damage and how they deal with situations. Again, like Soloq Rbgs is like Blitz again, so it's a bit different as well. It's way more fast paced. You can win games because of Cyclone and Cap, right? But I still think it is nowhere near as strong as what it was, at least in Dragonflight. Frost Decay. Frost Decay is fantastic, man. I'm going to say that it's A tier. For me, it could be very much S tier. But I think it's one of the best melees in the game because you have double grip, again, it's like all DKs have now. You have literally a slow, like an AoE slow with Death and Decay, which is one of the nastiest slows in the game, which is like literally making you rooted, but like you can move, but you're kind of rooted, right? You have like AoE stun, you have AoE blind, you have actually AoE sick damage, and your 1v1 power is not that bad, although it is not like meant to do 1v1s, you can still do that. You can play like Rite of the Apocalypse, so your mobility is a bit better, or you can play Deathbringer where your one-shot potential is a bit better. So you have tools, and I do feel like the damage is high enough to put them at A tier, especially in Soloq Rbgs. And I feel like with AMS and Icebound Fortitude, you have ways to deal with people that want to cap your node. So if you really want to like drag it out and people want to cyclone you, AMS, they break the AMS, okay, no problem, you still have Trinket, you have your interrupt, you have literally a silence. So if you're just going to gain time, you can do that as in Frost Decay, but you could do that the same as Unholy Decay, and Unholy Decay is the best melee DPS of that, on the same level as a Devastation Evoker. I would say it is the best. Like if you want to have a DPS in your team, it would be an Unholy DK by a country mile. It has CC, it has damage, it has everything you want, and it is bursty as hell, but also very consistent. So for me, it's going to be S tier, and I kind of feel like it's going to stay at S tier based on their kit, but they could like get nerfed on the damage. But again, we'll have to see on how it is going to evolve. But right now, it is for me a S tier spec. Blood Decay is A tier. I think I'm very surprised on how good it is because you can actually hostage people. You are one like unkillable bastard, so you can basically spin a flag forever. If you really want to be silly, it's going to be a draw, pretty much, or the other team has to like drop the ball, or your team is going to be like crushing them. You could win the game because of that. But literally you can be a one-man army, very hard to kill. Your damage is not that bad, it's not like insane, but it's not that bad. But you can literally like hostage people. Like in flag maps, you don't really take the flag, you just like hostage the flag carrier till they are really bored. You have big snares, you have your normal snares, which is like again something that every DK has. You have grip, you have the ability to be very sticky, you have like more things that I would say to be annoying than let's say a Frost Decay or a Holy Decay, but you are like again on some maps you're going to be left to desire, so you're not going to be effective. That's why I'm going to say that it's a bit less effective than Guardian Druid or Vengeance Demon Hunter, but I would say that Blood Decay, if you get them, it's better than a Protection Warrior. Now, Paladins, Holy Paladin, I am not convinced. I'm going to put them at the same level as Resto Druid. They have some good healing, but you cannot really bop a flag carry, right? You cannot bop yourself as well if you're going to flag carry. You can Divine Shield if you flag carry. You can help and save people, but again, I'm not like convinced. I still think the throughput is okay. That is true. But I again, I think compared to the other healers, it is just straight up below. I could even put them at C tier, but I think it is on the same league as the Resto Druid. Retribution Paladin is actually not that bad in Soloq Rbgs. I'm going to put them at A tier. For example, they are not like committed on bopping and divine shielding or whatever for flag carry, because normally you should not flag carry as a Retribution Paladin. You have good damage, you have good spread damage with Downlight. You have again the possibility to Hoj, and Hoj is one of the best stuns in the game. Yes, they can dispel it, but you could literally use it on the DPS and they won't dispel it because in general they're too busy with other things. Or you can just use it on the healer, and there you go with a 5-second stun into maybe a blind. You have great utility. You have possibility to defend nodes as well. If you are like stunned, you can bop. If you are like a physical stun, you can bop. If you are like in a problem and you want to have this node, you can literally divine shield and say, "Look, this node is mine. Deal with it." And you have again the possibility to win those matchups because you can just hodge and then also cap it, because capping is 4 seconds, hodge is 5. So if you're like very close to the flag, you can hodge into capping. That's possible. And consecration actually stops capping, so it is also very annoying to deal with. Protection Paladin, it is for me on the same tier as Warrior, so I think it kind of sounds the alarm of actually deleting the F tier. I just think it's bad. They are like semi-healers, semi-tank, semi-DPS. I wish it was a bit different, but it is what it is. Tanks are like a bit unfair. I wish it was a bit better for them in PvP, but they have to rework it to make it more fair for the DPS players in arenas, for example. But they got to find a way. Again, it's a shame that we have like 6 or 5 tank specs. I think it's 6 that are straight up like unusable in general in solo shuffle, and they are okay in Soloq Rbgs, but I think it would help. It would like do the game service by including them into like solo shuffle category where you could do maybe more damage, but you're like way less tanky. You're just like a DPS spec. That could be like a interesting POV of how a tank spec could be a DPS. For example, Protection Warrior being a DPS with a shield, sword and shield could be very interesting to play around, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. Disc Priest. I'm going to put some separation between them. So I'm going to put Disc Priest in A instead of S, because I do feel like I do prefer Preservation Evoker over Disc Priest, but there are occasions where Disc Priests are a bit better, but I would say the all-arounder is Preservation Evoker. Disc Priest has like the damage, they have defensives, they have no mobility though, but they have like sturdiness. Like it's very hard to down on Disc Priest, like very hard. And if they're playing Oracle, then they are even more tanky. If they play Void Weaver, they have like great damage. So I'm going to put them at A tier. I do feel like it's justified. I do feel like Holy Priest is C tier though. I do generally believe it is the worst healer in the game right now. Worse than Holy Paladin, so I'm going to put them as C tier because of that. I don't think it's D tier because again, a healer is not straight up unplayable, but it is like underpowered. So I'm going to put them at like C tier. I would say like I wish you were Disc Priest kind of feel. So this is going to be a logical tier separation. Shadow Priest, I do enjoy Shadow Priest in Soloq Rbgs, and I want to put them at S tier, but I'm going to put them at A tier, but top of the crop, right? So like really above, and they are really strong. They do a lot of damage. It's very hard to stop one because again, you have a lot of casters, you have a lot of healers, so you cannot interrupt everyone. So obviously having Shadow Priest doing like their Archon go, where literally they can then spam like 2 or 3 Mind Flay Insanities where they are deleting people, that can help them, and they have the CC to actually like literally carry games. And that's very important in my opinion. And I really want to put them in S tier, but again, I cannot put everyone at S tier. I already hear the criticism like, how come everyone is A tier or S tier? To be fair, in Soloq Rbgs, there are more specs being viable than less viable. It is what it is. It is not like Solo Shuffle where you have a clear separation between the top and the bottom. Here it's a bit more not convolute, but like a bit more contrived, where a lot of like the specs are good on different maps and they have different purposes. Now, Windwalker is the same kind of tier as like Fury, Arms, and the Age. They are like killable. They have good damage, but it's like not a caster. Like I feel like Soloq Rbgs is really caster land. If you really are frustrated by Solo Shuffle by playing caster, play some games of Soloq Rbgs and you will feel literally a god pretty much. They have CC, but it's like not as impressive as the Age. You have mobility, you're a good flag carrier, and you also can TP. You can set up your TP to a way where it's very hard for you to be killed. So that's a good thing about a Windwalker. But I would say that he's also quite easy to stop. So I'm going to put them at B tier. It could be A tier like the Age, but it's kind of the same vein as like warrior specs. Like they are like desirable to frontline and to like do shenanigans, but it's not like something you need in your team to win games, right? Brewmaster, I would say it is. I haven't seen one, so it's going to be a, I guess. You know what? I'm going to look up on check PvP just to have some confirmation bias. You have some Brewmaster, but only 2 above 1800. Let's see in NA. You have like 1 above 1800, and yeah, again, their inflation is a bit weird, but like you have such a difference between like the plebs and the rank ones pretty much, which is weird because in EU you don't have that problem, it seems. The highest rates are 2.9, but still, like, I mean, anyways, I have to check. But Brewmaster, I think it kind of cements them at B tier. It's worse than Blood Decay in my books. I think Blood Decay is a bit better. I'm going to put them there. And I haven't seen Brewmaster. Like, to be fair, this is like a complete random thing. It could be like C tier, it could be B tier, it could be A tier, but I haven't seen one. It is not popular. Then you have Mistweaver, which is the second best, or if not the top 1 healer in the game for Soloq Rbgs. Revival, Restoral, both like really like they can just save games. You have Life Cocoon, which is on a very low CD. You have CC. You have Ring of Peace, which literally is on some maps. For example, the Silver Shard maps, Silver Shard mine is very important. Your Eye of the Storm, you could also do some great things with Ring of Peace. In general, you're also like probably the best flag carrier until they get nerfed. They can just literally fly like across the map, which is insane. They should nerf that because it's really, really strong. But they're also one of the worst flag carriers. So once you have like 6 stacks, I think, you cannot roll anymore. So you're staying on your place, and that kind of brings them like down, because I believe Druids can still like leap, if I'm not mistaken, but Mistweaver cannot roll or like cheese celerity. So cheat Predator, excuse me. So I'm going to put them at S tier. There are occasions where they are better than Preservation Evoker, and there are occasions where Preservation Evoker is going to be better than Mistweaver. Destruction Warlock. I'm going to put them at A tier. I have to separate the tiers. Normally, Destruction Warlock is one of the S tiers in general, but the damage is like more stoppable and more manageable than, I would say, the better specs out there. I'm going to put them really middle of the A tiers, maybe a bit higher than middle, because they have damage. But I'm going to be honest, most Warlocks that I see are playing Affliction Warlock. So I'm going to put them at A tier for the basis of what I've seen, but also basis of what I know. I think Destruction Warlock, as a spec that I played in the past, also in the War Within, that I want to also explore a bit more in rated environment in the War Within. Dragonflight, I did manage to get Legend on Destruction Warlock. I want to do it again on the War Within. I don't know when, but I do feel like Destruction Warlock is such a great spec in PvP, like the Soloq RBGs, because you have like Fear, you have Double Coil, which is super important in all of fights, for example. You could even like literally like TP them out of a zone. You can literally like do shenanigans like that. So you could really be a carry. But the better Destruction Warlock is, in fact, Affliction Warlock, which, in my books, is the top 1, if not the top 2 caster in the game. It is insane. I don't know how they could nerf it, to be fair. I don't want them to destroy the spec, but it is very hard to, like, 1v1. It's very hard to actually win team fights against one. It is one of the specs I prefer to have with me than against me. They can literally carry fights, they can carry games. They have low mobility, though, compared to the other S tiers. Like literally, I think it is the lowest with DK, but DK brings people to you, while Affliction Warlock kind of have portal and have TP, but it's like still like very immobile. But even then, they can carry games just based on their presence alone in fights. Like you can do 1v1s, you can do even like crazy 1v2s, you can also just like do team fights and win games. You can like protect nodes because you can just play with Fellow Hunter being out, so you could easily like stop someone that like sapped you, for example. So you still have like possibilities to win games, and I think that is probably the best attribute that you can give for Affliction Warlock. Demonology Warlock is in a solid C tier. Solid, I say, but it is actually not that good. I think the damage is okay sometimes. Most of the time, it is actually quite terrible. They are a pet class, so Kotmugu, forget about it. Silver Shard Mine, forget about it. I think also on a lot of nodes map you can defend, but then again, are you playing to just defend, or are you going to be capable to take nodes? And you could take nodes as a Warlock because you have fear, you have the stun from your Felguard, you have a second stun from Felguard. Again, you have tools, but I do feel like, again, why would you play Demonology Warlock if Destruction Warlock and Affliction Warlock is existing currently? It's the same like issue that BM Hunter. You could perform well, because I'm performing okay and well on BM Hunter. It just takes me like playing more games. Like literally I was like winning every single game I played until today because I jinxed it. But I think right now Demonology Warlock is like on the same state of BM Hunter. They are not doing too much damage, so C tier. I wish they bring back Demonology Warlock with like the Necrolord's Shadowlands Covenant, where you literally put demon balls like being super strong and like literally like one shot people. That was the good times, but you don't have that anymore. Frost Mage, in my books, if I'm very biased, it is the best spec in the game because it is rooting people, snaring people, very annoying. You can ice wall. You are one of the better playmaker in the game because you literally have such a kit that you could play make. You have double ice block, or you can play the PvE taunt where you are like 70% less damage on you, which then gives you a bit more liberty to like save your nose and whatever. But I do like ice block. They have crazy damage that are like very hard to stop. And in general, roots are my bane, and I'm like very biased. I don't care if people are calling out on my shit, call out my shit. But I'm going to move my camera. I'm very sorry, guys. But like you see, it's like the tank specs. But overall, Frost Mage, it is really an abomination of a spec. In Soul Shuffle, in Soloq Rbgs, in 2s, in 3s. I'm playing Enhancement Shaman. I'm playing Arms Warrior. I play BM Hunter. For some reason, I'm just doomed because Frost Mage just counters both of like all three of those specs. Just connecting on someone just diminish your like will to live on the game. Obviously, not like in real life because who cares. But like in the game, I tell myself like, after this game, I'm not playing the spec anymore. I can't be asked to actually play again Enhancement Shaman with a lobby of 3 Frost Mages. I don't want to play the game anymore. I'm going to quit. Kind of the same deal. Frost Mage is like literally like siphoning the life out of you and literally making you a despair machine. You're going to become toxic just by playing versus Frost Mages. It is insane. And I stand by my grounds. I think Rogues and Frost Mage and Affliction Warlock are S+, the rest is S tier. But I don't want to like do an S+. I could do S+, but maybe at the end of the video, I'll just do that. Frost Mage, Arcane Mage, I would say it is a B tier. I frankly don't have too much to say about it because I frankly never see one. And when I see one, it is not that impressive. Yes, you could do like some crazy plays and that's cool. But most Arcane Mages are not going to make you feel like they are really like competitive. That's how I see. Farm Mage, I'm going to put them at a great C tier. Yes, no D tier. I could put them at D tier, but Farm Mage has still okay damage if they manage to not get targeted. If they manage, because it's never going to happen. Farm Mage is just so easy to kill. It's actually satisfying to kill one because they actually get damage on them. To deal damage, you need to go Glass Cannon, so obviously you're going to be the lowest HP pool out of the whole lobby. You are still a mage, so you can still do playmaking, and trust me, I think Farm Mages you can climb. Like, I think Feruki said that on a video or a live stream, I don't remember, but if all mage specs were gone, except fire, would mages do worse by going fire and play, and would they be able to climb? And my answer is yes, you can climb as it. It's not like the tier list is not going to make you say, look, you have to not play Fire Mage. But I would say the average player, like 99% of the player base playing Fire Mage is going to make them feel not that great. And you have like the 1% that might make you feel like Fire Mage is going to be good. But trust me, if you have to choose between Fire Mage, Arcane Mage or Frost Mage, you would always choose a Frost Mage in your team. You would say Arcane Mage depends on your skill, and Fire Mage you would just pass it on the enemy team and try to fight against the enemy team to keep them on their team. They're like literally the child that is getting like last picked in the court. So that just is what it is. Resto Shaman, I would say it is a competitive healer because they have utility. They are a bit better than Restoration Shaman, Restoration Druid, and Holy Paladin. But it's like not fantastic. Like it could be in between A and B. It's closer to B than A, than S tier, that's for sure. But I still appreciate the Resto Shaman because they have like Ghost Wolf, they have like great healing, actually very good healing, and they have like capacities to like save the game by doing a good link. And linking in Soloq Rbgs is actually not that bad, especially with a flag carrier. You could actually save them, and you have tools to push people away. You can like play double push pretty much. You could also play like with unleash shield. You can push someone also away, like turn a storm and then unleash shield. You could also play with the static field totem, where you can just like drag people away. Although they get like the totem destroyed, it is like still a bit of time that is going to be left to make you win the game. So Restoration Shaman, A tier. I think a lot of people are going to agree with me, but if some people don't agree with me, please do comment below. And Enhancement Shaman, my spec, the spec I play, I'm going to put them at a sweet C tier. And I'm going to put them above Demonology Warlock. I would say like if I have to play between BM Hunter and Enhancement Shaman, I would prefer BM Hunter in Soloq Rbgs because you have more liberties. I think Enhancement Shaman has not a lot of value. You can push people away, but again, it's a bit more tough because you're like literally a melee. You're getting kited by multitude of people. You are the focus. Train blue is a real thing, guys. Do not underestimate. 1v1s are great. You can do some 1v2s, but you're not surviving. You don't have great CC. I already said that Hex is not a good CC for Enhancement Shaman because you are the target, so you're going to get kicked anyways. And you have multiple people that can just like literally just say F you to your Hex, you're not going to Hex me anyways. They could also just literally CC you directly with something else. Lasso is a good CC, but you cannot cap while lassoing. Hex is the only CC you can use to cap a node, and you can win games by doing that. But it means that you're a good player. It doesn't mean that you are like playing a good spec. You can win as an Enhancement Shaman. You can make it feel good. You can make it feel like you're the carry of the game. But trust me, that is not the reality. If you have like a Rogue in your team, or a DK in your team, or a Frost Mage in your team, or you have a Guard Druid in your team, or Preservation Evoker in your team, or whatever, you're going to automatically get a bit carried by them. It just is what it is. You cannot literally put the whole lobby on your back and do some 1 versus 15 kind of things. You could play with a healer, dual Q, and you could then like be the unstoppable force where you're not dying. That is true, but you don't have an MS effect, and MS effect in Soloq Rbgs is super important. Like that's maybe the only value that I would say that Arms Warrior, Windwalkers, Fury Warriors, Demon Hunters has that some of the specs don't have at S and A tier. You kind of want a more strike effect, but that's true. But an assassination rogue can do that, and a sub rogue can do that. A Holy Decay has some sort of, not an MS effect, but it has an anti-healing mechanic. Outlaw Rogue has that. Feral Druid has that. You have a lot of specs that have that. That's why they are B tier, because they're not like they are not like needed at 100%. You would like one, but like you don't want to. But like Enhancement Shaman is like someone that you see in your team, you're going to tell yourself like, why is it in my team? And I have plenty of lobbies where you have like 2 Enhancement Shamans in your team and you literally are losing the game. It's like automatic. You have 2 Enhancement Shamans in your team, you're losing. Because you don't have the utility, you don't have the things that are going to make you win the game. So for me, Enhancement Shaman is going to be a good C tier, like it's going to be a C tier. And I might be biased, but trust me, you can see people be high on Enhancement Shaman because they're like very committed on the spec, but it is not a spec for everyone. I think like one tricks are going to have fun with it, and I do have fun with it because I do love it, but it's very frustrating. Elemental Shaman, I would say, is B tier. They have damage, they don't have CC. It's the worst caster in the game, like CC wise. I would even say the Visitation Worker is probably better in CC because you're less targeted. Yes, Elemental Shaman has some firepower, but it's also not that impressive compared to the other specs. I'm going to put them in, like in middle. I would say Fury Warrior is a bit higher than Arms Warrior is like here, and Arcane Mage, Elemental Shaman together. This is my tier list. I would say like literally I'm going to put like a new one, the S plus tier. So that's quite important. Again, I said it was silly, but it is what it is. I'm going to put them like this, and I would say like this. And the Devastation Worker, I would say S tier. So this would be my tier list. Yeah, okay. The healers as well. Then you have like a gap between them, but like really, this is all. That is also S tier, but separated. Yeah, that's kind of, I needed to do some separation because this is true. Like, and I'm going to counter a lot of people. So if you have watched the full video, you're going to say, but how come you see a lot of A and S tiers? That's not possible. Tier list should be literally a pyramid where you have only 3 S tiers and then the rest is B tier. That's not possible in Soloq Rbgs because the specs are not that different from each other. A Warlock spec is still a Warlock spec, even though Demonology Warlock is like garbage. But like a Rogue spec is a Rogue spec. It's still like a Rogue. It's still the Rogue class. You can still do the same things, but the damage is like something else. But damage is not winning the game as a rogue. Doing rogue stuff is making you win the game. You could be top damage if you're not doing the rogue stuff. You're just not a rogue. You're just useless. That's how I see. If you're not doing rogue stuff as a rogue, then you're useless to me. You're just a Fury Warrior with damage, with better defenses, with cloak and evasion, whatever. But you're not like a rogue. A rogue for me, he just catches people. He is going to kill the AFC whenever there's like 7 stacks on them. They're going to like destroy someone on the orb for Kotmugu. They're going to try to like steal a node, or they're going to defend their nodes till the very end. They're going to be able to do shenanigans that some specs just do not have. So I'm going to put that like this. Again, Outlaw Rogue is a bit different because they don't have the one-shot damage. Focus, please. Focus. Thank you. They don't have the damage, but they have still the rogue stuff, so that is still going to happen. So again, thank you for watching this video, really appreciate you. Still has been a 1-hour tier list. I lied to you guys. I can't stop myself from actually talking about stuff, but hopefully you do understand the tier list. Hopefully you do agree with the tier list. If you do not agree, please let me know how you are not agreeing with me. Don't say, ho, Feral Druid is A tier, ho, you don't know anything, ho, unsubscribe. Don't do that. Like, this is like silly. This is like made for a conversation. I respond to nearly everyone in my comments. You can just check any comment section on any videos. I do respond. I do take care on commenting and to have a conversation with the people that watch my video. But do watch the video because, again, it's silly that you're going to comment something that you didn't really have the information about. So this is my take. Again, you do whatever you want. Again, thank you for watching. Have a great day and be sure to stay safe. We will catch each other probably very soon in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.